This is Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie.
Join us for unbuttoned and unedited conversations.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julie. And we're excited to welcome Kavan Smith to the podcast. Welcome, Kavan.
Thank you so much. When you guys said just at that intro, you're going to play a little song, you weren't joking. That was a little song. there was not much there.
No.
It's a cute little
Short and
song.
sweet.
It's cute. I thought I was going to have a few minutes off here, but nope, right into it.
Nobody really wants to watch us. They're here for you. Yeah.
Right.
Let's hope so.
Right.
Well, welcome. We're so happy to have you join us, and congratulations on season 11.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's amazing. I've been describing this show since I think the very early days when we started doing interviews and podcasts and stuff as the little show that could.
Yeah.
It was and I have also told this story many times, but Martin Cummins took me aside on my first day of set because I didn't quite understand the story or what we were making at that point. And he's like, don't ever quit this show. Don't ever quit this show. Oh. And I was like, okay, why? And he goes, because the fans love this show and this show could go for a long time. Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough in my career. I've done a few shows that went for a while. Yeah. I was part of a show that went for a couple hundred episodes. I've been shows that gone for 5 years and some 6 shows, but 11 on a a cute little Hallmark show is really wild. Yeah. And it started with us slowly becoming friends, the cast. Obviously, I bonded with Pascal pretty quickly, but then, Aaron and everybody else shortly after. And but then you go through this phase where you become good friends. And then eventually you kind of, and everybody says it, but I don't think they're really clear what they mean. But then you become family, and it really is like family now. And like just on a whim the other day, Hallmark did not offer to pay for this, but Pascal called me and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to go down into Aaron and Ben's for the premiere. You should come." So we went. We had Jack over, and it was just an impromptu thing, but it was like, yeah, of course I'll go down. Of course it's just something you do for your brother or your sister. And it was really fun. It was really, it's been a real experience getting to know all these people as well as we know each other now.
Yeah. And you know what, as fans, I mean, Julie and I have been around for quite a long time watching this show. It's really special to see you all actually be real life friends. And then to see your characters real,
Yeah.
It's special.
It helps. It's like instant chemistry. Again, I've told these stories so many times, but on our first, I think it was within a couple episodes, Pascal and I started. They were just seeing if we had any chemistry, really, in the beginning, and then we had a scene where she's force feeding me some slop as I'm in an infirmary or something like that. And she just kept shoving it in my mouth. And after a while, I just kept like, okay. And I was getting a little bit annoyed, but then she just kept doing it. And eventually I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty funny. And I like this person's sense of humor. And then we were just sort of off to the races. And when you can take advantage of a personal, it sounds awful, I suppose, but when you take advantage of a personal relationship because it's chemistry right off the bat, it just became secondhand. And then obviously there's huge chemistry by so many people, not just me, but obviously Aaron and Pascal have great chemistry, Aaron and a bunch of other people, because everybody knows one another.
Right.
It's wild. I've done a fair bit of stuff in my career, and I could count on 2 fingers the number of shows I've done where people have gotten along this well. And that show was the other one was only a pilot, so we didn't get the chance to dislike one another.
Yeah. Right. But it comes off. We see it as fans. The social media posts are fun and engaging. Look at you posting like multiple things.
Well, let's not get out of control. And I don't know about multiple things. Every year,
like 3, you posted like.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's pathetic when you compare it to the other people. So every year, I go into the first day of shooting. and I'm like, okay, this year I am going to take some photos. I'm going to take some really cute, charming behind the scenes photos. So when we start airing, I'll have some fun things to share with the fans. And every year, by the end of the second day, I've completely abandoned the idea. I have no interest. There's Ned, the character who plays Ned, is
Rothgar. Yeah.
and Rothgar does not bring his phone to set ever. It's a steadfast rule. And about 4 or 5 years ago, he mentioned that to me, and I was like, oh, I hate my phone. I hate being tied down like that. So I was like, I'm going to do that too. So I started just leaving my phone in the trailer unless I was expecting an emergency from my kids or my wife. And so I never have my phone on set. So there's no one to take pictures or for me or for, you know, it's a bit of a social media bank for myself. And so when the season comes, I scroll through the season and I'm like, oh, I have 3 pictures. this is all I've got. So I rely heavily, Hallmark, every episode, they give us a download of a bunch of publicity photos that they take for the episode. And if there are any in there for me, I try and capitalize. But sometimes there's ones where you got a lot of photos. Sometimes there's an episode where you don't have many photos at all. So it's just the luck of the draw. Yeah. But I am the worst. I am absolutely the worst at it. And every season I say I'm going to get better, but the truth of it is I probably won't.
Yeah.
But I think you're winning. Just own it. You're winning with that picture with you, Pascal, and the doll.
Yeah, that was a good one, right?
Oh, yeah, you're still winning. I'm sorry, but that one's
that was a super fun one. I had a couple of good ones. There's one with me and Goldie this year where we're just kind of nose to nose.
Yeah, that's super cute.
Yeah, that was really sweet. The DP of our show had that one and gave me kind of nice, but yeah,
super sweet.
She's a cute kid.
She's my gosh, beautiful.
Yeah, she's a beautiful kid. Pascal was sort of allowed to meet with prospective babies, and she thought that that one had the most upside. She was precocious and fun, but not, you know, too much, and she was very engaged and fearless. And ultimately, if you're working with really young kids, you want them to sort of be fearless, because when the cameras are on, it's like, right. And then on our first so obviously Pascal's been pushing for this baby angle for many years. Right. And so when we finally got it, the first couple of days on set, our poor little girl was teething, and she did not want to be there, and she was carrying on and was really fussy, and they were like, this is because working with kids is expensive, and our show is not expensive. We are run on a shoestring budget. So any time delays to try and get a kid to stop crying or chill out or relax, they really are expensive. So in the first couple of days, it didn't go well, but they were her first couple of days on set. And then we just kept working away with her, Pascal and I, off the camera, and sort of developing a friendship and a relationship. And as soon as the teething stopped, she just opened up. She was so much fun. Yeah. So much fun.
Love that. And you can't time these things. It's like, oh, great, today's teething day.
Exactly. There's just nothing you can do. Nothing you can do.
Nope. Okay, so you just roll with the punches, right?
Yep.
So if somebody were to say they've never watched Wind Calls the Heart and wanted to know who Lee was, how would you describe Lee? Who is he?
That's changed over the years, you know. Yeah. When I first started doing the show, I thought he was sort of a dapper, sort of kind of flash of the future. I thought he was a really, I wanted to play him like nothing ever got to him, like just cool as a cucumber, like could take Rose. I wanted him to be the opposite of Rosie, where she's such a big, larger than life character. I wanted him to be even Steven, and nothing gets him down. Nothing really messes with him too much. And I think for the first few years, that was sort of the way it went. But then, much like I've learned in my personal life, you don't stay the same person.
Right.
Trials and tribulations are coming, whether you like it or not. And they will affect how you interact with the people that you love, and I know this firsthand, and you have to either adapt or then the relationship suffers. So I think for Lee, it's been, I mean, they wrote it into the scripts a long time ago that he's looking for a passion. He's trying to, I think we all are in life. I mean, everybody would love to do something that means something, because then you don't work a day in your life. You're doing what you love. And as an actor, that's part of the truth. But so I think but then there was no resolution to it. So I thought he was kind of just spinning his wheels, and I didn't. And then I think that in retrospect, it's kind of neat, because a lot of people don't get to do what they want. They just search in perpetuity, and they don't find that thing. And then maybe years later, it's like, oh, hey, this is interesting. And we're still discovering little things. So I kind of always wanted a big resolution, like years ago, like whatever the case may be. But now that no big resolution came, there is something there too that I've liked. So I think Lee is obviously a family man, madly in love with his wife. I think he's the yin to her yang. I think that they've wanted kids for a long time. And I also think that this is a new sort of spin on Lee. Yes, I think he's kind of that Teflon thing where not much gets him down. But I also think that maybe that's a veneer, that there's, like there was things that happened in the past that, made him keep a certain wall up to, not get hurt. And I think, like, I know for myself, as I've gotten older, the past has, I thought I had managed my past fairly well and that I'd moved on rather successfully. But yeah, I haven't really. So I have to deal with the past first. And I thought it's a nice little thing for Lee to have to, play those deeper moments. And it's been a really interesting evolution. And I've heard some whisperings about where we might go in the future. And I think it plays into that mindset really well.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but it does. It kind of leaves Lee open. So we just learned last night that he'll buy the saloon, but we know that that's not his passion. So we kind of still know that he hasn't really fulfilled that part of him, maybe that he was searching for originally. But he has all these other pieces like Goldie and having a new growing family. That is, the important things. Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out this season.
Well, it's definitely interesting the way it goes. And I like where it ends up at the end of the season 11. And I think it really lends itself to a season 12 if we're lucky enough to get going on that. But I definitely think that the idea of him not having that big resolution a few years ago, that kind of pissed me off a bit, to be quite honest with you.
I think it might have pissed all of us off now.
Okay. I wanted something from it, but in retrospect, like you said, leaving it open a little bit like that, I felt like he was flailing in the wind a bit, and I think that that's okay now. I look at it now like a lot of us are just flailing in the wind, doing our best to hang on and taking the punches that come and keep going one day at a time, one step at a time. And I actually think it's been quite an interesting evolution for Lee. And I think that I know in season 11, it continues on to the end of the season, but I also think that it could continue on further.
Yeah. Sure. Julie, sorry, go ahead, Julie.
I was going to say, interesting though, like instead of having that big resolution with the revelation that Lee was looking at taking over the saloon, so Mike could stay there, like you wouldn't be bringing somebody in from the outside. It occurred to me that Lee's actual gift isn't running a lumber mill or a paper or a saloon. Lee's actual gift is as a businessman and managing people and the businesses in a way that impacts the community positively.
100%, yes.
From the minute Lee rode in on his bike, right?
Yeah, I really I think that is still the best entrance on the show, I think.
Absolutely agree.
All right. Okay. Just so we're on the same page.
That's on our notes.
Lee's
Yeah.
entrance, and
Yeah.
then there's Nathan's entrance, and then there's everybody else's.
Yeah, exactly. But it was I agree though. It was yeah, Lee has been a real wild ride, and I agree. I think that his gift, if he has a specific gift, isn't necessarily being successful or pursuing one given thing, even though he's trying to pursue one given thing. But while he's doing that, he really feels compelled to try and do the best he can for everybody around him. And that is a superpower in some ways.
Yeah,
it is. And
It's
he
not-
manages, and even though if he does manage businesses in a positive way,
Yep.
that keeps them running and provides places for people to have fulfilling work. And so, like last night when it was like he was going to pick up the saloon, it does add into the, if you live in Hope Valley, if you're not
You have
Nathan
17
the
jobs.
Mountie or Elizabeth the teacher, you have 17 jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like, and one more job. Really.
Yeah, everybody has a whole bunch of things, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We're all jack of multiple trades, but
Yeah, but his specialty is really doing those things that help support the community and allow people to stay there.
it's funny now that you mentioned that. Yes, I agree, first of all, but I was just thinking that there is something that's very linchpin about that. He's quietly not the focus of attention. He's not the hero, but he does this one thing that is so necessary in the town. And he may not get enough credit for that. It would be interesting to see if there's some acknowledgement of that, but that quiet behind the scenes trying to help everybody is actually pretty cool.
Well, I just think that in One Calls the Heart, you have different characters who are providing leadership in the community, and they're each different way. So
Yep.
like Lucas's storyline was kind of been obvious. This last year it was to be governor. That was just a kind of a very specific leadership thing. But the Coulters lead by their businesses and what they can provide to the community: safe haven, jobs, security, rewarding work and outcomes. It's the Canfields provide spiritual and community and the soul, feed your soul, feed your stomach, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you got the safety guys, right? And you get your healthcare people. So
I think we got all the bases covered.
Yeah, no, so it ends up being like they each represent like things in a community. Like when you look for community involvement, you're going to have a meeting about something in your community. These are the people you pull in. So in Hope Valley, you just have kind of like one set of each of those.
Yeah, I also think that if you were to ask me instead of about Lee and ask me like, what do I think the key to the show is? I mean, that's it. I mean, I think that's what resonates for the audience and for the Hardys and for the Hallmark fans in general, is that there really isn't much of this on TV. There's not a lot of community driven shows where everybody helps everybody all of the time. Like that's the unique thing about our show, and that's why we keep going, because I think that resonates for people, especially nowadays. Not to get political, but everybody's so divided and stuff, and that's the opposite of Hope Valley. I mean, you can have different viewpoints here, you can see things differently, and yet everybody comes together, for the betterment of humanity and the betterment of the community. And it's really that's the superpower of the show. And I think people can sit down and watch with their kids, with their grandkids, with their moms and dads, and it's kind of like, that would be nice. That would be nice if the world operated that way.
Yeah, you called it earlier a cute little Hallmark show, and we always say it is a cute little Hallmark show. You can watch it that way, or you can actually it's actually a lot deeper than I think it gets credit for. And when you start really digging in, I think that's why the fan base is so.
I couldn't agree more. I think, like when I first met like I said on my first day with Martin Cummins, I didn't quite understand the show,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure what this was all about. I came from like sci-fi and
Right.
like grittier stuff, murders and gang stuff, and so when I got here, I just didn't quite understand it. And then I met the Hardys at that first convention, and I was like, okay, these are people who are buoyed by this sense of community that this show provides, and over the years, I'm like, okay, I get it now. I really do get it. And it's reflected because of the personal relationships. I think it's it's written that way, obviously, but because everybody cares about everybody, there's a genuineness to that. I think if you just hit it over the head too hard, it would seem sort of schmaltzy and too much. But because everybody is actually quite friendly, it reads.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it allows like really scene partner mixing works so well. Your scenes don't have to all be with Pascal. They can
although there were a couple of seasons where every time we had a new writer, I was like, I just put my scenes with her because they are a lot of fun, and we really like to, and we can go quick. One of the things that Pascal and I can do, they can put us in our house, our little row house, or in the office, and we can pound out a lot of scenes really quickly, and it's fun. And there is although everybody laughs, and like I said, everybody gets along, Pascal and I laugh a lot. And those days, like, I love laughing on. I mean, who would do a job where you just laugh all day long? It's really it's quite a boon to have. And so that, I think, is something that I tried for a few years, where I wanted, let's just maybe just keep it with me and Pascal. But now, I mean, I love everybody. Like, I like doing a bunch of scenes with Chris. I love doing scenes with Viv. I love doing scenes with Aaron. I love doing scenes with almost name it, everybody. And it's really interesting because each dynamic is a little different. Yet because there is a personal relationship there, there's lots to work with.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. You and Pascal also, you can do very deep relationship scenes, but you also have a comedic timing scenes that kind of come through every now and then, and I kind of love them. You recently had one with the water dripping and the phone calls. You've done ones in the office, particularly with the doors going, the kids going in and out of the door. Those are so fun. And I just feel like not everybody can do those.
Yeah, maybe not. Both of those scenes were directed by Peter, Peter DeLuise, and he loves that kind of stuff. He loves that sort of the idea of getting a bunch of little things happening together to tell a story in a funny way. And I think we were benefited because I think we did them fairly well, but we were given the opportunity to do them. Right. So those are super fun. And I think the thing that I like most about working with Pascal is that because I'm so much better.
There's our clip.
It is.
Joking. No, one of the things, we've always prided ourselves on being able to go in either direction. Like, we love the hilarity of being a little bit of levity on the show, and she's kooky and crazy, and Lee kind of holds her down a little bit, but then some gets it really, like, Lucy and Desi, very, very similar to I Love Lucy vibe. And we love doing that, and it's fun for us. But if it was only that, it wouldn't be sincere. It wouldn't. Part of what makes it so fun to do those, and when they really stand out, is when you can juxtapose it with a scene that's profound and tearful and sad or moving in some way. That's what we like to do. Like, the polarity of those two things make the characters interesting and brings them to life a little bit. I think if it was all high note broad comedy like that, it just, like, we skate the rails of being too broad already. So I think we need to bring it. We need to bring it down, but those scenes that do bring it and make it real, I think, buoy us for the rest of the episode or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of your scenes is probably one of the most iconic on the show that really did that, and that's the engagement scene. That scene is
the best engagement on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
by
Well,
far.
there's an engagement every 5 minutes, so that's meaningful. Thank you. Yeah.
So far, anyway.
No, it
There's
was
been a lot.
there's a bunch that come to mind for me too. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that one. There are a few over the years that have been kind of like that for us, and sometimes for me, I always have. I'm fairly well rehearsed. Like I go in with a plan.
Mhm.
Other actors like to go in and just kind of wing it and get inspired in the moment. I like to go in and forget about the lines because I know them so well, and then just try and we improv a fair bit.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't see until you hear the other person give it back to you. You're like, oh God, there's a really poignant moment here, or there's a really great opportunity for a joke here, or a laugh here. And knowing when to do it is a real delicate dance. It's a skill set. So sometimes actors have a habit of wanting to shine, and sometimes you have to remember that the show benefits best if you know when to not do it.
Right.
So, you can go in there and ham it up, or you can try and be overly dramatic. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's too much. And sometimes it's got to be the shine on the other person, or another scene that's happening. And you just, I think with learning how to act, part of the journey is knowing when to back off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like negative space,
Right. That makes sense. And I'm sure you two have worked together for so long that it's easier to find those moments.
Absolutely. You get when you start acting, I think the biggest trick is just relaxing in front of the camera. That's really what messes most people up that try this, is that you can't bring this or this in front of the camera if you can't get over your nerves. You just tighten up, you become verklempt. And so when you work with somebody a lot over a long period of time, you kind of you leapfrog that whole thing, and you go right to, hey, yeah, I mean, I don't even know the camera's here. It's like you're just rehearsing off camera. Pascal and I did a cameo on a friend of ours movie last year, and we were playing these really over the top characters that come whisking around all dressed in fancy ballroom regalia, period piece. And I don't think the producers or director had any idea what we were going to try and do. And I don't know that we had any idea what we were going to do with it, but the director just said, just go for it, have fun. So each take, we just went bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just got wild, and it was so fun. And you just, I don't know, you don't know what's going to happen until it's happening sometimes. No matter how well rehearsed I am, I love to be surprised when we actually start filming.
The two of you have done a fair number of movies together. Having that comfort, does that make filming like a movie of the week a lot easier?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We talked about this the other day. Actually, Pascal and I are going for coffee tomorrow, or we're going to talk about another project. But it's when you start a new show, if you don't know anybody, there's always a learning period. Even if you're like a really good actor and you can you professionally do the job, creating a relationship and chemistry with somebody that you don't know and you may not like, you may not hit it off in the first few days, is not easy. And it is a little daunting sometimes when you don't know what you're walking into. Maybe you've heard some rumors about the person being a little difficult, or that they're judgy, or that they like working a certain way that doesn't work well for you. And that kind of can put you on your back foot a bit. But, we don't have that. We go in on day one. It's like, we're already laughing in the trailers. We've got music going. We've literally leapfrogged that whole process. For us, I think we're kind of sitting there most of the time thinking, okay, when are we going to start disliking each other? It's bound to happen at some point. Knock on wood.
Right?
Oh, that's hysterical.
No, but like there's also a piece to that. Like when you're working in an environment and you don't have to. My daughter was a competitive gymnast, and they would sometimes say this phrase, "You're working too hard at it." You can work the right amount. You can skip all that working too hard pieces. And
100%. 100%. I think that's in all things. I mean, it's uh, anything when you're pushing too hard, you get rigid and you get tight.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be in athletics, it can be in
Yep.
music, it could be in anything. But when you're loose,
Yep.
then
So the magic comes.
yeah, that's when the magic comes. And I agree. I mean, certainly that seems to be the case for me, and it works with Pascal and I. The more relaxed we are, and that's one thing we don't do. We don't really push. We don't. Well, I mean, we push the comedy and we push our boundaries a little bit, but we don't force stuff. You know, and we just kind of let it happen naturally. And that part's really fun. Yeah, I consider myself very lucky to have a scene partner like that. And I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but you know, our families are friends, our spouses are friends. It's a very healthy, weird relationship that, you know, and I only mean weird because she's so bizarre. No, I mean weird in that, you know, it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Like,
you know, everybody talks about their work wife or their work husband. She's like literally your work wife.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
my work wife. She's my wife at work.
It is a bizarre thing, you know. It's not
a bizarre thing.
Yeah, it's not bizarre. Our spouses handle it really well. And there's a lot of trust and everything. And so everybody's, you know, really cool with it. But it is weird. Just structurally a bizarre scenario where, you know, people say online, oh my God, you guys are such a great couple, or you have such great chemistry. And, you know, my wife's sitting right here reading these comments. It's got to be a bit weird.
Right.
You know, but I think that, you know, I think the bulk of the population understands too that it's your job and that you're really good at it.
Yeah.
And
I definitely think everybody understands that, you know, with us.
Maybe not everybody, but yes.
Okay, maybe not everybody, but most people understand.
Yeah, and they do, and they like the reason we feel that way is because you're so good at it, right? So we don't feel that way if it's not done well, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get pulled in, right?
Let's go with that. I like that explanation.
So, Kavan, when did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
Oof. Well, that's another story that I've told a zillion times, but I'm happy to tell it again.
You can say the short version.
I'll give you the abridged version, but I was in the university to be essentially a lawyer or an accountant or something. I had no interest in it. It was listless. I don't even know why I went to university in the first place. And they kindly asked me to leave. They were like, you know, I think I lasted a year and a half, and they're like, boy, you've dropped a lot of classes in that time. You're lucky because you haven't gone under review yet. You should withdraw all your classes so you don't go under review, because if you do, you're going to be kicked out. And I was like, okay, good idea. They're like, go take some time. You can still get in on your high school marks for another, I think at the time it was like another year or two. And so I did. I left. And then I remember I was visiting my mother and was talking about it. And I think she was the first person I told that I had dropped out. And she was like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. They told me to come back when I knew what I wanted. And she said, well, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. And I had my best friend growing up was named Ronnie. And I've already thrown lots of shouts out to him, but he and I would practice these skits when we were kids, like 10, 11, 12 years old. We just make up skits like Kids in the Hall, SCTV, you know, Saturday Night Live, that kind of thing. We'd practice, we'd tape them, and we'd laugh ourselves silly. And then we'd go out on the public street buses and we'd try them and just see if we could get people to laugh. And I remember telling my mom, I'm like, well, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I think I would like that. She's like, well, I don't know what that would be. I'm like, I don't know. Is it it's like stand-up comedy? And she goes, I don't think so. I think maybe it's acting. And I was like, acting? And I'd never acted a day in my life. I'd never taken any singing or drama or music or anything. And I was just like, acting. Okay. So over the course of the next year, I fumbled a few times trying to pursue this, but then I ended up going back to post-secondary education. I went to the theater program, and that was essentially it. And I was slightly handcuffed in that I didn't have any musical training at all, and I couldn't sing, even though I sang leads in musicals horribly. I felt insecure in theater because of that, though. I felt like, I'm, if you're going to have a decent career in theater, whether it's in Toronto or New York or wherever, you're probably going to have to know how to sing well. And I didn't. And I felt like I probably wouldn't be able to pick that up. So I focused on film, and I was very fortunate. The first film audition I got a corny little Canadian TV show, and it got me an agent, and it got me, I was able to afford to live in Vancouver and Los Angeles for a while, and bought me some and some experience. Like even though it was not a good show, and I was particularly bad, I learned a fair bit. I made a huge mistake, and theater actors are prone to this because they look down on film and television. They don't look down on the money, but they look down on the job. And I refused to watch myself on the monitor. I thought it was vanity. I was like, oh, I'm never gonna do that. And boy, I wish I did, because I was theater acting in a big way. It was way over the top. I was
a little big.
Oh yeah, it was real big. And I watched the first episode, and I was like, oh my God, I made it. And I'd already shot the whole season, and I was like, I made a huge mistake. So I learned a big lesson on my very first show, but it did get me it got me an agent, it got me a little bit of money, and I was able to, keep going.
So now you watch the monitor.
Now I still don't watch it too much, and because I tend to look for the wrong things. Still mostly probably vanity, and it's hard to get around it, but I generally know when it feels right, and then I try and trust the other actors or the director or the DP or whomever, and I'll watch a bit. Sometimes if I really question, like I'm like, ooh, I don't know, that felt pretty bad, they'll just play it back for me, and you can watch it right there. I maybe do that, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year on when calls anyway, at most, and it gives you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And I the biggest lesson I learned is I was theater acting for television. That was a big one. As soon as I understood that, I didn't need to watch as much.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
makes sense.
So, smaller movements.
Smaller movements. I still do pretty big movements, but at least I know better.
Sometimes Rosemary and Lee get to be pretty theatrical. So then it's perfect, right?
And it's entertaining for us. Like the small stuff is all fun, and it's actory, and it's enjoyable, and you feel good like a thespian. But the fun stuff, oh my God, making each other laugh. She's easy to break. I think she breaks on purpose. I mean, I think she just likes to break, period. Sometimes she'll just start laughing for no reason, and then just find that hilarious and keeps going forever. I don't break very often, but I do love to laugh.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite location to film on Wind Calls the Heart?
Yeah, I think for sure I like our house the best.
Yeah,
our little row house. It's comfy and cozy, and some of our best scenes have been there. I like the saloon, but the saloon, we've had so many scenes in the saloon, so many every year, where there's like the whole cast, everybody's in there, 100 people in there, and those scenes take forever.
Okay.
It's exhausting. They look great, but they're exhausting to shoot. And I like the Coulters, and usually in not our house, but the office.
Yeah.
I like shooting there a lot too. And when we're there, it's generally just the two of us, and it goes fairly quickly. But yeah, I suppose if I had to say a favorite, it would definitely be our row house.
Yeah. And it's kind of iconic. People know that it's your row house too. It's got its own set deck and everything. So people are like, yeah, that's theirs. Or
there's a lot of little things in there that are hidden in the set deck that are just ours. There's this one, I don't know if they've shown it or not, but there's one picture of it's supposed to be Rosemary, and it's an old picture. It's a playbill from a theater in New York.
Yeah.
I don't know, 1915 or 16 or something like that. And I think it was the Mikado or something. I forget, but it's a tiny little picture, not very big, playbill, and it's just her, and it's obviously a very old picture that they've just superimposed her face
Right.
very, very, very poorly on. So it just looks like amateur 101. And that one's particularly funny, but there are a few downsides to shooting in our location. Number one, there is no upstairs. So
Right.
anytime you go upstairs, it's just, a loft. So you're kind of crouching down, waiting to come downstairs. Hope I didn't destroy anybody's
Oh,
illusion.
no, we all knew that.
There's enough pet tour people that didn't.
So so that part's weird. The couch that we sit on is terribly uncomfortable. It's weird because when we sit back, we just kind of like, it's a very big lean back. But it has a nice vibe to it. And we generally shoot very quickly in there. So you don't develop a distaste for the room because it's just
Mm-hmm.
and we're always having fun in there. So for sure, without a doubt, that's my most favorite place to shoot.
Awesome. Do you, okay, one of our favorite questions to ask is an Easter egg. Do you have an Easter egg for, for Lee or the Coulters in general that you can share? For example, Andrea told us the word emergency.
Okay.
And Kevin said his Easter egg was Easter egg. So,
well, it could be just like a scene to look for or something to look for.
Anything.
Location.
In this season.
In this season.
Well, to be quite honest with you, there is one moment that does involve an actual Easter egg. And I don't know which episode it is, so I don't want to blurt it out, but it is to do with Goldie. Okay. And it's the first episode where she was really involved and really kind of into the scenes and wanted to participate. So there is one of the things that she does, this little girl, is that she loves to give things to people. Mm-hmm. So she'll pick up a rock or something off the floor and she'll look at you and she'll go, and she's everything. She just gives you everything. And it's really sweet. And I don't know what language she's speaking, but it's adorable. And there is a little Easter egg with that. There's another interesting Easter egg from years ago. And this one still kills us today. And I forget what happened, but somebody got hurt or something like that. And everybody, Pascal has to say this line, call Carson. And she's supposed to be, and she couldn't say it. It was always call Carson, call Carson. So for years, for years we'd on set, we'd be like, call Carson, call Carson. But that was many seasons ago.
Well, listen, when you listen back, when everybody's doing their rewatches, listen for call Carson.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Goldie and an Easter egg. So we've seen some press releases out, and so the fourth episode is described as the Easter episode. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty safe bet that you'll see what I'm talking about in that episode. And I think it's the first time. Now, it may not be sequentially.
Yeah.
First thing where she's really interactive, but when we shot it,
right.
it was her only, I think, her third day with us. And it was the beginning of when she just sort of blossomed. The teething had finished by then.
Yeah. Perfect.
And it's so ironic that it actually involves an Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
So we've
never had an Easter episode, so yeah.
Have we never done an Easter episode?
No. I mean, you had Christmas movies.
Yeah, we had a few Christmas movies.
And New Year's.
Yeah. I thought we'd have knocked off all the holidays by now.
But no Easter. There was that one episode where you did a bunch of different celebrations. You got
yeah, I do remember that one too. There's been a lot
of Founders Days.
Oh yeah, no, there's some weird ones. We're making up some interesting holidays.
Every Hallmark movie. I mean, what percentage has got a Founders Day?
Yeah, there's one of the things that I've been trying to get at for years. My thing, where Pascal was trying to get a baby for the show for the Coulters. I've always thought that 12 episodes just isn't enough.
Nope.
I've always thought that that leaves such, now obviously there's a selfish component to that because I want to work more and I want to get paid more, and but the real concern, and for me, and this has always been the case, is that there's such a large space between when the final episode airs and when the next season begins. And with all the options out there nowadays, and I'm not saying Hardys are fickle. The only reason we have a show is because of the Hardys. Everybody knows that. It's the absolute truth. But I've always thought that a few more episodes, not a ton, 2, 4 more episodes, something to help bridge that gap of time. I've always, I mean, I'm knocking on a door that nobody's opening, but I do think, I honestly really do think that you know, bridging the gap somewhere, or even like there was a time we did a cookie contest,
cookie matchup contest, right? Yeah,
things like that. I thought kept the Hardys engaged with us in a way that helped bridge the gap between the 2 seasons. And I just think that I just don't want to lose the Hardys. You know what I mean? I just think that eventually, what if other shows come up that do sort of what we do but better? You know. Maybe it'll never happen, but
no, never going to happen. We always thought there would be another season of the cookie matchup.
Yeah,
we always thought that there should be home cooks who apply to be on that.
Yeah,
show.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm pitching it right now.
Yeah, I know everybody on the cast when we finished that shoot said never again.
Because baking shows are rough because it's like long hours and you got to shoot all the steps and you're trying to do it in a short period of time.
Yes, it was actually really, really, really hard work. But an interesting fact about that show, and I'm sure other people have already told you this, but that is really one of the places where we really started bonding as a bigger group. Yeah. That's the first time Kevin and Chris kind of came in with everybody in a meaningful way. And we would shoot that show during the day, and then we would go back to the hotel, all stayed at the same hotel, and every night we would go down to the restaurant, spend our per diem on dinner, and laugh, like all at a big long communal table, and just had a ball. And shortly after that show was done, I would say within a couple of weeks, we all changed our tune and we're like, you know what? I'd do another season. That was a really fun. And I think home cooks would be really interesting. The only drawback to that show, and this is going to sound like complaining, but the company who produced the show is used to dealing with reality TV. It's a very different animal. So in reality TV, typically speaking, the contestants are just regular folks from home or wherever, and they go in and they kind of they just do what they're told, more or less. The producers are trying to do everything efficiently and get it going as fast as they can. And with us, it was like they didn't realize that we were actors and we had a stake in this. And, there were times where, somebody would say, I'm just going to run to the bathroom here for a quick second. They're like, no, not yet. Like, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to the bathroom. So there were a few little kinks to work out as far as as that goes. But ultimately, the amount that we bonded over that was great. But also, I think it helped bridge the gap between 2 seasons and gave fans something to watch and kind of root for their favorite actors. I'd love to do it again.
The Christmas episode kind of played that role too, although I can totally see why we don't do Christmas episodes. You don't really have a good storyline in them.
No,
it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a placeholder. But I think it was something to look forward to, and everybody would look forward to it.
Yeah. We all love doing them, and but it was we were really limited by what you could shoot because it had to fit within the context of the show. There was one version that we never ended up shooting, but it was a script that I won't go into it in case I
think we know.
Oh, okay. Just tell me and then I'll.
The musical.
The musical.
No. The music. No. Okay.
No, not a musical.
Okay, there was one with Aaron's brother wrote songs or something like that.
No. No, that wasn't it. This was a much
Okay.
better idea. It was the best idea. It was the best idea for any script I'd ever seen on Len Calls, bar none. And it was perfect in that it could be injected. We could make a Christmas movie and it had nothing to do with seasons. Like it could be completely outside the universe that we live on Len Calls. And in the end, my understanding was the network thought that it was too on the nose, I guess. I forget exactly why they turned it down, but and that was going to be the last Christmas show. So the last one we did, we were going to do one more, which was going to be this, and I'll keep it quiet because it might still be something that could be resurrected,
floating out there in the universe.
Yeah, but it was a great idea. I read the idea. I read the bullet points of how they were going to shoot it, and I was like, oh my god, this is a great idea.
Yeah,
and sadly, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's always fun to think maybe one day, someday, and just even like longer seasons, or as somebody who watches Hallmark series, there ends up being this kind of long, dry spell. I mean, things kind of like worked out a little differently last year, but then here you are back here. So
it's a very. I mean, who knows why networks do what they do? They all have their reasons for.
Sometimes it's like what they got lined up to.
Yeah, I've just, I mean, obviously I'm partial to our show and I'm partial to our actors and the fans. And I think that what would benefit the fans the most is to have a few more episodes. Like if they did 4 more episodes, that would be another month and a half of shows or whatever like that. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you talk about, what is it, a 6-month gap or something like that, more between. Yeah,
sometimes more.
Yeah. So anyway, I've been beating that to death. No one cares what I say.
We weren't here for you. We are listening. We are listening.
Hey, would you play a little game with us?
No.
A favorites game?
No,
I'm kidding.
It's not really a game.
Go ahead.
It's not really a game. Okay, so we'll just ask you a bunch of favorites, and then you can feel free to answer more than one. So we'll start with rom-com. Do you have a favorite rom-com?
I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to like rom-coms.
Oh, we always get good answers from the guys.
I do have a favorite. Oddly enough, sometimes when my wife goes out of town for a weekend, when the kids were little and they go to bed early, I would rewatch Under the Tuscan Sun over and over again.
Yeah.
And I love old houses, and I love the idea of living in Italy somewhere and rebuilding an old house. I love Diane Lane. I thought it was well acted and well written, and I don't do a lot of rom-coms, but that one I actually really liked.
Love that.
That's a good one. I haven't seen that in a long time. That. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite TV show or a show you're binging right now?
Okay, I'm going to let you in on a little insecurity I have. I generally don't watch TV very much. And part of the reason for that is because there is some amazing stuff out there nowadays. There's some amazing TV nowadays. So I don't watch a lot of it because I get jealous. I'm like, oh, I want to be on that show. Not that I don't like being on my show, but actors see something and you're like, ooh, I want to be on that. Ooh, I want to be on this, and I want to be on this. And I don't like being in that headspace. I don't like thinking about things like, wanting things I don't have. I like to, celebrate what I've got and live in the moment. And so I don't watch a ton of TV, but there are a few that we've watched over the years that my wife or my kids would get into, and I would just kind of find myself watching. But Ted Lasso was definitely one of the last ones that was just so infectious. It's just hard not to like that show. So well done. So
you and everybody else.
Everybody loves that show. And The Queen's Gambit was another one that she made me watch. And that was also really, really good.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yep.
Okay, what about your favorite food?
That's a really tough one. That's like
I know you like to cook too, so.
Yeah, I do like to cook a lot. It's a tough one because it's like favorite book or favorite movie. Really, it's a very
you can say few things.
Yeah, I like. I used to love to cook desserts a lot, but now I'm getting old and I have to shy away from that. But I like things like beef Wellington. It's kind of fun, and you get a lot of wow out of that. My kids, one of the things we do at home for everybody in the family except for me, is that on your birthday, I will make you whatever you want.
Mhm.
So the kids get to choose.
Mhm.
My eldest son likes the beef. I think, did he like the beef Wellington? And then my younger son usually likes things like peppercorn steak, or everybody has a thing that they like. So that's the thing. And I kind of, I grew up cooking, and it's sort of a way that I show my love, I guess. Like
Yeah.
that's like
My husband's the same way, so I get that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of up for anything. I go through ruts where I just sort of cook the usual stuff for a while, and then I'll see something like, ooh, I'm gonna make that. And so I don't have a specific answer. I really kind of like to do it all.
When you were doing sweets, what kind of sweets did you like to?
I was gonna bring up this one tricky one I've made a few times, and it's called it's a French pronunciation, but it's croquant bouche. So it's it's a profiterole tower with a spun sugar around it.
Yeah.
I used to love doing that, and a lot of my stuff is sort of French. The person who I learned from was a cordon bleu cooking school lady. So crepe Suzette's a fun one. We can whip that up here quick. My kids love it. I do pies and cakes and torts and creme caramels and all sorts of stuff. And so I was big on desserts for a while, but they catch up with you. You get a bit older, and it's like, we got to downplay those desserts a bit. And so then I try to. Salads are good, and you can make a really great salad. It's just not as fun.
Right.
You come and bring them to work.
Yeah.
Oh, your desserts you bring. Have you ever made that
one?
Julie, the one he was talking about?
Yeah.
Have you made that one?
Which one? Croquant bouche?
Yeah.
I have not, but I totally know what it is. I mean, I've done parts, but it's spun sugar.
Yeah. It's funny. It's really tricky though. If you get it's one of those ones that's dependent on exterior humidity. If your little profiteroles, if you have too much moisture, too little moisture, too much butter, too much flour, too much water, they'll just squish.
Right.
And you want them nice and crispy on the outside, hollow on the inside, pipe them with whatever you want.
Fold. Yeah.
And they're tricky. So I've made it successfully maybe 3 or 4 times, and then unsuccessfully probably 3 or 4 times as well.
It's just the way baking goes, right?
It's just the way it goes. Yeah.
It's the way it goes.
Yep.
It's like pounding out the macarons. It's like sometimes.
Yes. I've never made macaron. That looks really challenging.
I kind of make them a lot. I like anything with a meringue, so I'll pound out anything that's got a meringue base a lot. So including like chiffon cakes are all meringue based too.
Cool.
So well, croquant bouche.
I'm not a baker. Yeah.
No.
Someday, if you make another one, you need to post. That's what you should post on your social media.
I think I have a picture of one of my croquant bouches somewhere. I'll look at that and I'll post that instead of anything about Wengals.
Gosh, that behind the scenes picture with the baby.
The Federal Tower. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, who is your favorite character on When Calls the Heart that is not Lee?
Wow. I think that's obvious. It's got to be Viv. No, I mean, obviously I'm very I would say that Rosemary is, although I suppose Goldie is now up there too. I mean, she's a very endearing little kid that we work with, and it's hopefully we continue with that. But all of my success on the show is because of Pascal. So I would have to say that that's number one. But then I really, we don't talk about this much, but I really like working with Erin too. And I don't do a ton of scenes with her. I know Pascal does, but Erin has been this kind of beacon over the years. She's the number one on the show. She's now a producer of the show. She's involved in everything. And this is her baby. And because she's so cool, everybody else has to be cool. If your number one is good to everybody and kind and decent and friendly and goes out of her way and works her butt off.
Right.
If number one does that, no one else, you have to follow suit. No one can pull any crap. So, I mean, Erin's on my list too. I love working with Chris. I love working with Kevin. I do love working with Viv. I like working with the kids. I love working with Rothgar, and I really like doing scenes with Martin Cummins. The few that we have are always sort of fun to do. But I would, everybody is a distant second, I suppose, to Pascal. Don't tell her I said that, though.
We won't tell anyone that you said
nobody.
that.
Okay,
Right?
good.
It is kind of fun with Martin Cummings because you really have had like a range of scenes over the years because
Yeah.
both
Man, like a lot of animosity in the beginning, and
Yeah.
a lot of, it's like trying to outduel them, and then
Yeah.
eventually kind of, hiring him, and then,
Right.
watching him grow, and then, asking him to be more involved in our lives. Like we've kind of run the full gambit with him, and it's been, we've had scenes in each of those veins that have stood out. Like there's
Right.
card game when we kind of pull a fast one on them. There were scenes in the beginning when we were more adversarial, and there's been scenes lately when we're far more closely aligned. So it's been a real fun evolution for those two, because when I first came on, he was the town bad guy and he was the rich guy, and Lee came in supposedly another rich guy and was going to be the good rich guy. And so they set each other up as being against one another, and it lasted for a couple of seasons, but then everybody evolved. So I love the few chances I get to work with him, and I always find that the evolution of Gowan and Lee is interesting. It's an interesting barometer for the show.
Right. And it's a longitudinal barometer. It's really gone from season 2 all the way up here through season 1. So it's a good barometer. Well, should we finish up with one last one? Do you have a favorite band or singer?
Louis Armstrong.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to have favorites, but I like blues, and I like some jazz, but bluesy, like Howlin' Wolf and Louis Armstrong. Those are, I love those sounds.
And they're iconic for a reason, right?
Yeah, they're iconic for a reason.
Right.
Now, if you could could you describe, like, what would you say season 11 is in like 1 or 2 words?
Well, I would say unexpected. I mean, it's really, should I say this? Am I going to get into trouble? I think there was an expectation when our new showrunner came on that a lot of storylines were tying up. And that maybe we were done telling stories, and now we've opened Pandora's box again. And I think that there's all sorts of new directions. So I think this season, there's a lot of things that are happening that are kind of unexpected. And I feel like it's in a way, sort of a new start for the show. And I mean, I hope it is. I know, and I've talked to, obviously Pascal and Aaron and Ben and a bunch of other people about, I want to be involved with this show as long as it goes. And if the fans stand by us and continue to enjoy the show that we put out there, then having a new beginning every once in a while is probably really healthy for the show and healthy for all of our characters, and maybe healthy for new fan bases. And so I would say unexpected.
Love that.
I love that answer.
Sum it up.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Give out the just drop the mic, and and that's how we'll finish up. Where can people find you on all of your social media? You got one social media, right?
Well, there's like a couple of accounts, and we don't know which one. No, we do now, but I think you have an old one and one that you use, right?
Can I tell a funny story about that?
Yeah, please.
So I had this account. I mean, if you guys can plug my stuff, that's great. I actually don't know what they are. I know I have on my phone, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, and I have Instagram, but I don't know what the handles are offhand.
Okay.
But I was doing, I think it was Instagram, and I was setting up an account because I didn't think I had one. And I think it was just Kavan Smith. And I was like, oh my God, somebody beat me to it. Somebody's already got my handle. Like, who's show me another Kavan Smith. This is ridiculous. So I was like, I think somebody's either stolen my thing or created a dummy account or something like that. So I pursued it, and I had a friend of mine who's kind of a techie, and he pursued it, and he's like, "Hey, dum, this is you." So both were technically mine. So I either set one up before and I forgot, or my wife might have helped me set up something and I completely forgot. So yeah. I have limitations when it comes to this stuff.
The tech world. Well, on Instagram, if you want to find the super fun pics with the baby doll and Kevin and Pascal, or the adorable little picture with who is the little gal that plays Goldie?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I can't remember it right now off the top of my head. I have it on the tip of my tongue, and I've been every time I've said her name or thought about her, I've like, oh, it's right there, and it's just on the tip of my tongue.
Well, she's a cutie. So this is just Kavan Smith, one word, no spaces, all one word on Instagram.
Blunt but effective.
Very effective.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kavan, for joining us. Hang out for 1 second. We'll end the recording. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching.